Hey class, welcome to the Prof JC Leadership Podcast. This is our final episode for the semester, and I hope that this has been a great holiday season for you so far with Thanksgiving, and I'm hoping that your Christmas season is just the best that it's ever been, and I really mean that. This time of year for me, it means a great deal, and so I want the same thing for you. Well, today we're calling this episode our final thoughts on a life of purpose. And so I just want to take a few minutes and just kind of wrap up our class, what we've talked about, some of the themes that we've been able to discuss over the last few weeks. And my hope is that something that you've taken from this class will help you as you go out into your own lives and you live lives of purpose and you lead organizations that are filled with purpose. Okay, so if you remember, we've talked a little bit about the framework of what purpose is. Okay, so what I want to talk about primarily today is purpose in terms of your personal life. Okay, I want you to think about that. Now, everything that we've talked about, you can apply also to your organizational life. If your personal life is just totally squared away, then you can put this on the organization. But I want you to think about it today in terms of your own purpose. Living a life of purpose starts with clarity, okay? And so that means that you have to know where you're going before you can live a life of purpose. It is unbelievable to me how many people that I know, and probably how many people that you know, live lives that are completely aimless, and they're just walking around trying to figure out what's next, and they have no purpose, no direction about, where they're going, and they just live to eat the next dinner, right? Eat the next meal. They're eating lunch and they're asking, well, what's for dinner? They're eating dinner and asking, what's for breakfast? And they just go through life. I don't want that to be you. It can't be you, right? You're getting an MBA. You're getting a master's of leadership, right? More is expected of you because of what you've been given. So that clarity is important. And so the clarity that we talk about is, number one, it starts with your purpose, okay? And that's, as we talked about, it's why you exist. It's the guiding star of your life. Vision is where you're going, okay? You can see a vision. It's the exact destination you envision for yourself. And mission are all the steps that you're going to take to get there, okay? It's the steps, it's the strategy, it's the actions that you're going to take. And I've used the example before, I think in this class, if all of us were to take a trip to New York City because it's Christmas time, and where else would you rather be at Christmas time than New York City? Our purpose would be to go enjoy Christmas in New York City. Right? Our vision would be New York City. Okay. So we could actually see it. We could see the hotel. We can see the shows that we want to watch. We can see the entire experience as we want it to play out. The mission are all the steps we take to get there. Okay. So, are we going to fly? Are we going to take a bus? Are we going to take a train? Are we going to drive there? What airline are we going to take to get there? How much is that going to cost? Once we get there, are we going to Uber? Are we going to rent vehicle? What hotels are we going to stay in? What shows are we going to go see? What restaurants are we going to eat at? How much is all this going to cost? That's the mission. Okay. So the same thing, you can apply this to your life, and bring some clarity to your life. And that's one of the most important things that I hope that you have. I hope that I don't run into any of you 10 years from now, and you're at a place where you're trying to figure it out and kind of, where am I going? You're just existing. You have a mediocre job and a mediocre life, unless that's what you want to have. If that's what you want to have, then by all means, go for it. But I don't think that's what you want to have. Finally, we've talked in this class a little bit about, I don't know if we've talked in this class about it, but when I talk about the PVMPV, okay, it's the purpose, vision, mission, and then principles and values are the rules and behaviors that keep you grounded and aligned as you pursue your purpose, vision, and mission. So those rules there, and I don't have time to talk into that, and those aren't really important for this class, but this is all, once you understand these 5 things, okay, these 5 concepts, your purpose, vision, mission, principles, and values, it's at this point that you can live a life filled with clarity. Okay. When these elements work together, they form the foundation for a life that is not only intentional, and that's an important word. If you're going to live a successful life, it has to be an intentional life. Go meet with anybody that you know who's successful, anybody that you know who's lived a life that's great. I promise you, every single one of them have lived a life that's intentional. Okay, so it's intentional and also deeply fulfilling. Now, over the course of the semester, we've looked at what I think is an incredible book, Gay Hendricks' The Big Leap. Okay. And obviously, this book, it offers powerful insights into why many of us fail to live fully in alignment with our purpose. Hendricks describes, and we kind of looked at this, we looked at this in the book, the upper limit problem, where hidden fears and beliefs about worthiness, about who we are as individuals, right, cause us to self-sabotage when we begin to experience too much success, too much happiness, too much fulfillment. And you've seen people like that. I've seen people like that where they're taking off. You know, we see a lot of music stars like this. Maybe they were born into poverty or born into a family that wasn't great or a situation that wasn't great, but they had an incredible talent and they looked good and they sounded good and they had some good connections. And so through, the different, connections and things happening, they skyrocket up and they take off and they, within 5, 6, 7 years, they're a global superstar, and they're traveling around on buses and planes, and everywhere they go, they've got paparazzi and people meeting them, and what an exciting life that must be. And then all of a sudden, we find out that they have, that they've been on a drug overdose or a drug binge, or maybe they got themselves into some trouble. In the worst cases, and one of the ones that I'm thinking about right now, or two of the ones I'm thinking about, you've got Michael Jackson and you've got Whitney Houston, and both ended up dead for a myriad of reasons, but because of addictions and issues such as that. We've seen this happen all the time. Bill Clinton, in the book, talked about that, who I believe was actually a great president, and many people would believe he would have gone down as one of the greatest presidents of our time. But what happened with Bill Clinton? His second term, he gets reelected, the government goes into shutdown, and what does he do? He decides to spend time with a 21-year-old intern called Monica Lewinsky. Some of you may not be old enough to remember that story, but most of you may have been a little bit younger when that happened, but that was a big deal. This is what he's talking about. It's the upper limit problem. So when we get to a certain place in life, we don't think that we deserve to be there, and so we do whatever we can to kind of sabotage ourselves back down, because we believe that, I should only reach about here. Right? On a scale of 1 to 100, you and I might have a belief that, I'm an 83. And so opportunities come along and hard work and our business starts growing, our career starts taking off, and we all of a sudden get to 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 92, 93, 94, 95. And, we're going all the way up to 100. We're making good money. We've got good relationships. All this stuff is happening. And then what happens? We sabotage ourselves back down because we believe in our minds that we're an 83 or a 75 or a 72. Hey, it happens all the time. Okay. And that goes back to our own worthiness, right? Where hidden fears and beliefs about worthiness cause us to self-sabotage when we begin to experience too much success. That's what this whole thing is talking about. Okay. Now, I don't want that for you. I don't want that as you're going further in life, as you're beginning to take off, as life's beginning to take off for you. I don't want you to come back down anywhere, right? Where we are today, we should never, ever see this again. This spot. It should be a continual climb to the next journey, to the next level, it's almost like a mountaintop. And that's kind of how I see my own life. And I've got the top of the mountain and my goal is to get there. I don't want to go back. And I don't want to come back to where I am right now. There's nothing wrong with where life is at right now, but I'm hoping 5 years from now, I'm further up the mountain, and 5 years from that. And I want the same thing for you. Okay. But we will sabotage success if we don't understand this. Okay. So the barriers often whisper lies. Okay. And we have to understand that these are lies. They're not the truth. Things like, I'm fundamentally flawed and I don't deserve this. If I succeed, I'll lose the people I care about. And that is true. That may happen. Right. Some of you have experienced that as you've taken off in life. You found out that some of the friends that you had a few years ago are no longer your friends. But here's the dangerous thing. I know a lot of people who sabotage their own lives because they don't want to lose their friends or family or people who are close to them. And they realize, if I take off and do this big dream, if I start this business, if I go make this money, if I travel over here, if I go do the thing that I want to do, I'm going to lose all these people. Well, that's the price of it. Okay. Sometimes you have to do that, right? And again, I could talk about this all day. It's just so important. But we don't have time to talk about this too much in this podcast. We've touched on it, and the book help you touch on it as well. But there is an element of once we go further, there's a chance we have to leave some of the people behind. Not all of them, right? But some of them have to be left behind. And some people are not willing to pay that price. Success will become a burden. If I shine too brightly, I'll hurt other people. And again, there's some truth to that. Marianne Williamson has a great quote out there that talks about letting our own light shine. And what most people do is they're actually not afraid of anything. What they're afraid of is they're afraid of letting their light shine, because what that means is that the world will see how bright and how great and how wonderful they are. And you might lose people. Okay. But that's part of the journey of purpose, is that may happen. It doesn't mean that we have to slow down our life and slow down our progress because of that. Okay. But here's the truth, that everything I just mentioned, okay, these are all myths. They limit our growth and keep us from stepping into what Hendricks in the book calls our zone of genius. That unique space where your natural talents and passions align, enabling you to contribute at your highest level. And that's the goal, to contribute at your highest level. So many of us stay, and if you're able to read the book, we stay in what's called the zone of excellence, where we're competent, but we're not fulfilled. And see, some of you might be there right now. You're competent in your job, you've got a decent job, but you know that you're not fulfilled. Okay, it's not really the thing that you want to be doing, but you stay there because of all the other things, right? You've got the upper limit problem. So breaking into the zone of genius requires courage, self-awareness, and a commitment to dismantle the beliefs that hold us back. Look, I believe, and I've talked about this, I think some in this class, I believe most people who exist on planet Earth, if you've lived more than 10 or 15 years, you probably need some kind of therapy. And I think a lot of people who end up, the ones we talked about earlier, who started out maybe poor, started out maybe in lower class, and because of their talents or hard work, they took off. And next thing you know, you're checking the internet, you're checking in on them, and 15 years later, something happens and they come crashing back down. Most of that happens because they didn't take care of all the things that are holding them back. They didn't take care of all the limiting beliefs that they have. And so you've got to do that, right? If you're going to really pursue your purpose and reach it at the highest level, you've got to be able to do that, right? Most of the times in life, it's not going to be someone out there who's going to hold you back. It's going to be yourself. It's going to be choices that you make that will hold you back. And some of you are young enough where you're listening to this podcast and you're saying, you know what? I don't know what he's talking about. 10 years from now, you're going to come back to this and, okay, now I remember what Prof. JC was talking about. Okay. And so again, if you're seeing some of that in your life where you are now, I wish that somebody would have grabbed a hold of me in my 20s and would have helped me do all this stuff in my 20s. I can only imagine where I'd be even further at 45, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all these things, if I'd known some of this. So please, even if you're in your younger stages, grab onto this, okay? Have that courage, have the self-awareness, and a commitment to dismantle the beliefs that are holding you back. And we all have some of those. That's just a natural part of life. Hendricks challenges us to expand our capacity for joy and success without guilt or fear. And that involves shifting from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance, where we embrace growth in creativity, love, and happiness. Okay. He also introduced a transformative idea, the Einstein time. Okay. Time, Hendricks argues, is not fixed. It is a construct that we shape through focus and intention. When we take full responsibility for how we perceive and use time, we stop feeling constrained by it and start aligning it with our purpose. So it's using time to work in our favor versus, well, I can't do this anymore because I don't have enough time left. No, we don't need to say that. We just have to use time in our favor. If you're in your 20s, you're in a great season of life. If you're in your 30s or mid 30s, you're in a great season of life. If you're in your 40s or 50s, right? I'm 45. We can still dream and still pursue, right? Time, as you just said, it's a construct. It's how we see time. So it's changing that mindset and saying, I have the time to fulfill my purpose, whatever that purpose is. Now, I'll say this, at 45, if I, said, I'm going to go and become a Navy SEAL. Right. And that's something I wanted to do a long time ago when I was a young kid. I always thought that, being a Navy SEAL would be amazing. So if I just said, you know what, I never achieved that, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to actually pursue that goal and I'm going to become a Navy SEAL. That's not going to happen. Okay, because number one, there's an age limit on that, and I think it's like in your early 30s or something like that, or mid 30s. And I think it's your early 30s if you want to go to buds and do all that stuff. So there are some things as we get older, right, that we're going to have to say no to, but there are a lot of things that I can still say yes to. Right. So even those of us in this class who are maybe kind of middle range or we're working into our 40s or 50s, there are still a lot of things that we can do. We might have to adjust our dreams and goals and all these kind of things. As we want to live a life of purpose, we probably aren't going to have the same dreams that we had back when we were 18, 19, or 20. But there's still so much out there that we can do even when we're in our mid 30s or mid 40s. And so I want to encourage you to go after that. Okay. And if you're in your 20s and you're taking this class, please, please, please listen to what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. I don't want you getting into your 40s and looking back. And I see this all the time. People get into their mid 40s, my stage of life, and they look back and they've just got a string of poor decisions. I don't want that for you. I want you to live your purpose. At its heart, the big leap, which is what we kind of looked at over the last few weeks, is a call to live authentically and intentionally. It challenges us to make conscious choices that align with our zone of genius. That's where we're trying to get to, and commit fully to personal growth. Hendrick's message reminds us that by breaking free from limiting beliefs, and again, those are all the beliefs that we have that will hold us back, we can create a life of purpose, joy, and fulfillment. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and the person was talking about success, right? It's every now and then I like to go back and listen to those. And one of the things they talked about is that true success is seeing what you want and having the courage to go after it. That's what success is, okay? Seeing what you want in life and having the courage to go after it. And most people do not live lives of success, if that's the definition of success. Most people, and I grew up with people like these, okay? Most people see something, they see a dream, whatever it may be, and they think it's too far out there, it's too far gone. That's only for those kind of people over there. And so my life is this right here, whatever that is, okay? And so I'll stay in that life. That's not success, okay? Success is that dream that you have, you go after it, right? In this program, while teaching here at Point Loma, I've heard of all kinds of dreams and goals that students have. And what I probably need to do at some point is write down a list of students who share something that they want to do. And then if I'm able to get in touch with you, 10 years from now, ask you the question, how close are you to achieving that thing that you said you wanted to do 10 years ago? Okay? Because here's what I know. Again, most people don't want to do that because it takes the self-awareness, it takes the courage, and these are tough things to have to fight through every single day, consistently, right? But that's what the big leap calls us to. How do I break free of the limiting beliefs, okay? And how do I pursue this life that I really want? True success. Knowing what I know, knowing what I want, I guess that's the first part of it. And number two, having the courage to go after it. And when you have met people like that, when I've met people like that, every time we've met people who live that kind of life, they know exactly what they want and they go for it. And they have failures and they have, setbacks and they have things that get in their way. And not everybody achieves the thing, right? But here's what I promise you. And I'm old enough to say this, and here's what I promise you. You may not achieve the thing that you're going after, but in the process, you will become something that you couldn't have never imagined, and other doors and opportunities and people will come into your way than if you just stayed home and said, I can't do this thing way out here, whatever the goal is, so I'm just going to stay home and stay here on the couch and watch TV and watch other people live lives of greatness. I don't want that for you. So here are 3 calls to action based on the book, okay? Number 1, discover your zone of genius. Okay. Take time to reflect. And next week, you're going to have a little bit more time in your final assignment to kind of look at that. How does purpose fit into a life of leadership and purpose? So you're going to have some time to work through that and through some of the questions that are in your assignment. And so I want you to take time and do that. Okay. Take time and reflect on your natural talents and your passions. What brings you both joy and contribution? Begin shifting your focus there. I've told the story before, and I don't tell you the story to make it about me, but I just want you to, if there's anybody on the call who, thinks maybe they can't pivot or transition into a new stage of life. A few years ago, I was in ministry and I just was not happy. It wasn't the thing that I needed to do. I had a heart for it. I had a passion for it. I had a lot of good memories from that and a lot of great experiences, but it wasn't the thing that I was supposed to do. And so I was very lucky to have met a person here in San Diego who owns a consulting firm, and he put me through an executive assessment. Through that executive assessment, it was a gentleman based out of Canada, and the person who put me through it paid good money for it. And what they came to find out is they said, JC, you're going in the wrong direction. You need to be a professor and a consultant. Okay. Now, this would have been just 2020. It was during COVID when all this happened. There was a massive shift I went through in 2020 and 2021. And I got to tell you, it was the scariest time of my life. It was the scariest time of my life because the full-time job that I had that paid good money and provided a very good life for me, I walked in and I said, hey, can I go part-time because there's something else that I need to figure out over here. And that organization was kind enough and good enough, and my former boss was great to let me do that. So I still had a part-time job and part-time income, but I had to change so many things about my life. And I had to go out there and just pursue the thing. I had to go out there and pursue the vision, pursue the purpose. But today, I'm happy to tell you, in 2024, the end of 2024, I am a professor at, I think, the greatest university in the world. And I tell people all the time, I'm going to die here. And I get to consult and train on the side. And so I don't say that to make it about me. I just want you to know that this is possible, that you can do exactly what it is that you want. You've got to be willing. And I wish we had time where I could tell you all the hard things and all the rejection I faced in 2021. It was unbelievable, the amount of rejection from job and company after company, consulting firm after consulting firm. And finally, after a year of that, about a year and a half of that, 18 months of that, which it doesn't sound long in retrospect. When you're going through it, it's tough. And then finally in 2022, it was like the sun came out and it all. But I'll tell you this, even if this hadn't have happened, and I was actually on the path to go, I was going to start working in grocery stores. During all this time I was studying, that if this door didn't work out to become a professor or consultant, if those doors never opened, I knew that the ministry wasn't where I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be out in the business world, in the marketplace, making a difference. And so during that time, I was also mapping out and reading books and mapping out kind of where my life could go. And I was this close, and I'm trying to tell you, this close, where I was going to go back into the grocery supermarket industry or the restaurant industry. Okay. It was going to be one or two of the others. Again, I got lucky that all this stuff kind of happened at the right time, but I was willing to go in that other direction. There's nothing wrong with working for the grocery store, going back into the restaurant, business. I had laid out a plan how I could see it happen, but it took 18 months of pain to get there. Okay. And so if you're wanting to pivot in your life, make new decisions, go in a separate direction, you really are looking at your life and saying, I'm not as happy as I want to be. It is possible. You have to have the courage to do that. Okay. And if you ever want to reach out to me, I'd be willing to walk you through that and encourage you on your own, journey. Cause I think that this is important. I think it's important where you can live a life where you're gaining joy, but you're also contributing to the larger world and helping in the way that, that brings you joy. Okay. So number one, again, is that, discover your zone of genius. And if we didn't have time to do it fully in this class, stay on it, stay at it. Okay. Don't just meander through life and just take the next job and the next job and get into some, just whatever relationship comes. Live intentionally towards your purpose. Number two is this: challenge your limiting beliefs. And this is going to be the hardest part, Identify the fears and myths that are holding you back, write them down, challenge them, replace them with empowering truths. Okay. That's going to be important. And this is going to be one of the toughest things that you can do. And this is what most people won't do. And I hate to say it, most of you on the call probably will not do this. You will not sit down. You will continue to live a life that is not up to where you know you should be, because it's hard work to sit down and say, what are the thoughts that are holding me back? And then what's even deeper is when you begin to realize where these thoughts came from, because these thoughts didn't just appear out of nowhere. They came from somewhere. Okay. That's something I learned in my own journey through therapy, is that the thoughts that I had, the negative thoughts, the limiting beliefs, they started somewhere. And so you start pinpointing and realizing, hey, it started here, and this person and that person, and one of my parents said this thing, and so the world starts to look a lot different. And most people don't want to do that because it's uncomfortable. It brings anxiety, but you got to do it. Okay, you got to write them down, you got to challenge them, and you have to replace them with empowering truths. Okay. A limiting belief could come up that, hey, you're not good enough to be a team leader. Who's going to listen to you? Okay. And again, if you really think that, there's a reason why you think that. And someone somewhere along the line put that thought into your head. Okay. It could have been something way back in middle school or high school or elementary school. Who knows what it is, but you've got to figure out where that is. And then you've got to tackle it and then say, okay, what's the real truth? No, the real truth, I can lead this team. The real truth, I can build this business if I want to. Okay. So that's the work you have to do. So that's number 2. And then number 3, align with your purpose. Review your purpose, vision, mission, principles, and values. Are your daily choices moving you closer to the life that you want to live? If not, you have to make adjustments today. Okay? You have to make, I feel like I was lucky enough to get all this done in time. I remember telling a friend of mine, we were out on a walk one day, and I said, if I am, now this is a few years ago, I said 10 years from now, if I'm still in, and I named the organization, name the job I was doing, if I'm still in this place doing this thing, basically, because this was a friend of mine, I just said, take me out of planet Earth. Okay. I don't want to be here anymore. I can't do this. And it was a good job. And it was on the outside, most people would have said, hey, you're doing a good job in life. You're living a successful life. You've got a good home. You've got a good, it was on the outside, it looked great, but I knew in myself that this is not my full potential. And so I remember saying that, and it felt good a few years later to be on the same walk, same location, and say, you remember when we were here and I said that? And now life has changed. But it was hell to get through all of that. Okay. So you got to be willing to do that. So number 3, align your purpose, review your purpose, vision. Let me slow that down. Number 3, align with your purpose. Review your purpose, vision, mission, principles. Are your choices every single day moving you closer to your purpose? If not, you've got to shift. You've got to make adjustments. And if need be, you've got to go through the anxiety and all these things that you're going to go through so you can live a life of purpose. Okay. I just want to thank you for being with me on this journey for the last few weeks. It's been wonderful to be with you. It's been wonderful to read some of your stuff. I feel like some of you have given me some insight into your own lives. You've allowed me in a little bit. And so I appreciate, the fact that you've done that. 3 questions that I have for you today. Okay. What are the 3 calls to action? Okay. That I just shared. And just write those 3 calls to action out. And then what are you willing to do? Okay. To make this happen. What are you willing to do? Live a life of purpose, to lead with purpose, to live with purpose. What are you willing to overcome your limiting beliefs so that you can go on to live inside your zone of genius? Remember, living authentically. It's not about perfection. What I always tell people is this: perfection is progress. Progress is perfection. Okay. We're never going to reach it, but as long as we're progressing forward and you're moving forward every single day, right? It's about progress, alignment, and the courage to take the next step. With that being said, thanks for listening. Your final podcast, you don't have to listen to Prof JC, at least for a few weeks. Some of you, if I have you again, I look forward to having you again in a future class. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your time. And I hope that every single one of you will write to me in 10 years and you will tell me that you are living and leading with a life of purpose. Hey, thanks so much. And I normally say I'll see you on the next episode, but I won't. I'll see you here, there, or on the other side. You take care.